Welcome back. In this episode of Let's Build a Cross-Platform App, I want to start with the Angular 2 application implementation. So it's really about integrating the CSS framework and getting started with our first 2 or 3 components and define the first routes using Angular 2 router. I decided to go for Materialize CSS, which is a small CSS framework that you can use to build apps that follow the material design language offered by Google. Yeah, and in the meantime, as you already see on my screen, I switched from Atom to WebStorm. So I'm using JetBrains WebStorm if it comes to Angular 2 application development, because it's even more powerful than those small editors combined or enriched by using community plugins. Yeah, last but not least, my webcam from my other display isn't working at all, so please forgive me that I have to, look in that direction instead of looking right at you. But I think we will manage it through this video. Okay, so first of all, Materialize CSS. Don't be afraid if you haven't used it yet. It's pretty simple. There are different options how you can install it. Check out the Getting Started guide. So we will use, of course, NPM, the NPM module, and yeah, pull that by using npm install materialize css -- save. So this will take a while, and once that has finished, we can start with our integration. Okay, so installation has finished. Let's double check what we got. So we have a node modules folder right here in our client folder. And within that, we have all the dependencies that were required to run our application or to build our application. So don't be afraid if that list is already huge. There are tons of plugins installed right here that are only required during build time. And Materialize currently has a dependency to jQuery, so there is also jQuery installed or downloaded into the node modules folder, which is, yeah, I know it's sad, and I know everyone wants to get rid of jQuery, but it's a sample. It's a sample application, and perhaps we will use some of the features from Materialize CSS that are only working with jQuery. So please forgive me for pulling in jQuery in this sample application. Okay, so we have jQuery right here, and we have Materialize CSS over here. So how can you, or how could we integrate such third-party libraries into our Angular-CLI created project? Well, there is an Angular-CLI JSON, and we can use this file to do some simple configuration or customizations to the build process. So for now, we want to integrate the third-party CSS file and, of course, third-party JavaScript files. One thing to notice, that Angular-CLI JSON file is always interpreting or is working in the context of the main TS file. So if you are specifying folders, you always have to provide relative paths starting from your main.ts file. Okay, so first we have, of course, to pull in jQuery, so we have to go one folder up and go into our node modules folder. Inside there we will find a jQuery folder. Let's double check that. jQuery has a dist folder, and there's the jQuery min.js. So let's go into dist and pull jQuery.min.js. Next one, Materialize. So there is a bin folder which is exposing Materialize, the CSS file and the JavaScript file. So let's first take care about the JavaScript. Node modules / materialize / bin / let's copy materialize.js and the style sheet. So let's say node modules materialize bin materialize.css, and followed by our custom styles.css. So we will make some changes to that one. And now the CLI takes care and combines all the scripts to a single script and all the styles to a single JavaScript file. So CLI transforms CSS to JavaScript in order to load it on demand. Okay, so integration is finished. Let's start building some components, right? So all our components are grouped underneath the MyNodes components folder, and there is right now only a root component just displaying our build verification string that says MyNodes works, and we want to replace it to have a top level navigation and a sticky footer and some content that may be replaced by providing different routes for our app. So that said, let's add a new directory for our header, a new directory for our footer, and let's add a new directory for, let's call it the dashboard. So our dashboard will be the actual content representation where we, for example, display our nodes in combination with a search box, so that you can search through your nodes and hit a plus to create a new one. So that may be some features we add over time. Each and every component is made of a TypeScript file. So let's call that one footer. Let's add a new HTML file and call that footer. And let's get rid of that warning or message right here, because we want to add our files manually to the version control. And let's add another tsconfig. No, that was wrong. Get rid of this one. Let's add a TypeScript file and let's call that header, and another one header, Okay, so right now we have all our TypeScript and HTML files in place. Let's get started. So our header component we don't want to use in-place compilation. Okay, so our header component is made of course of a selector, which may be MyNodes, or let's call it header, MyNodes header, and a template URL which is header.html, export class header component, and currently let's just grab a component from Materialize CSS. And let's double check what they offer. So yeah, this one looks good. Let's take that one. And let's say the logo is MyNodes, and we don't want to use that strange color. Let's go to colors and let's add some more pink into that. So just say it's pink. Let's strip down the links a bit. For now we will add more links later on. And let's verify if there are some options that we want to add. Yeah, fixed navbar looks good. So I think it's just a wrapping div around the nav. Okay. So that's our header. let's take care about the footer. Again, add component. And let's review a footer. Sticky footer. Oh, for sticky footer we need to make some changes to our CSS, so that's nice. So we can slightly arrange that one. And for now, because we defined the selector to be footer, we only want to put in the content for the footer. But I think it makes more sense to put the selector over there, because we have some, limitations when adding the custom CSS to plain Angular 2 application. So we have to rearrange the HTML to match that what the framework developers are looking for. So the header, let's verify the header again. So navbar. We said there's navbar fixed, and let's also change that one to listen for navbar fixed and get rid of the surrounding div over here. Yeah, and let's use our components. So we take care about the dashboard later on. For now, try to get the header and footer up and running. So for footer we took, I think, footer, not forms, footer. Yeah, we have a footer class page footer. Okay, footer page footer, and right here comes our main content. So let's say div foo. And finally, we have to apply this small fix over here. Okay, so this should be the integration for the Materialize CSS framework, but let's review this one. Instead of having my nodes, we want to load we load it also for class. We can get rid of this one. Our index HTML, yeah, we have to do some changes over here because Materialize CSS wants to have a certain setup. Let's take that setup, paste it over there, and we will go and explain all the different scripts and CSS files and strip what we don't need. My nodes, and we have a body, and let's here add our class my-nodes. Okay, so first of all, Google icon font. Well, let's keep that one on the CDN for now, because this font is really huge if you install it using npm, because all the sources for each and every icon will be pulled to your machine, where we are only interested in the final compiled font. So it's simpler to just consume it from the CDN right now. Regarding all the CSS files and JavaScript files you see over here, we don't need to load them manually because Angular-CLI is integrating them in its build pipeline, and it's injecting all the styles and scripts automatically into the index HTML. So we can get rid of all the link and script tags and hand over the responsibility to Angular-CLI. So the footer, there's one thing missing. We want to have it pink, right? Let's make it pink. And let's give it a try. ng, no, stop, one thing missing. We have, of course, to declare all the components that we generated. So there's a header component and there is a footer component. Dashboard we haven't covered so far. Let's reformat that file, hit save, and say ng-serve, which will start the Webpack build. And again, this takes some time because, you know, I'm recording with full HD right now, so it's slowing down my entire machine performance a lot. So this should be way faster on your machine. Let's wait for the app to start. Bundle is valid. Okay, here we have some errors. My module not found, can't resolve. Materialize. Okay, there should be a typo. Node modules, materialize. Ah, okay, I saw it. The folder is Materialize -CSS, and we listed the wrong folder in our Angular-CLI JSON. And let's add that suffix over here, and let's restart the build, because, you know, changing the build configuration there is no watcher for the build configuration, so there are only watchers in Angular-CLI for all the source and script and style files, and of course the HTML templates, but not for the Angular-CLI configuration. Okay, Webpack is valid, and as you can see in the back, it has already rendered our nice pinky application. So it's time to take care about the content. Before taking or implementing the dashboard, or let's just say we want to take care about the definition. Again, it's of course a component. Let's pull in component from Angular core, and let's say we have a template URL, which is dashboard.html. So we don't need a selector right here. Why? Let me export the class first, dashboard component. We don't need a selector because we are not manually addressing that component. Right, we want to hand over the responsibility to find and load that component to Angular 2 router. So the router takes as a configuration always the component class that you define or that you want to load if the user hits a certain URL. So instead of providing a selector, we use the dashboard component class that we've exported already over here. And let's just add a headline that says dashboard, and let's configure the router. So the router is exporting a class called router module, and the router module again is exposing two methods. One method is called forRoot and one method is called forChild. So the forRoot works for our scenario because we have a single app module right now, which is sitting on the top level. And later throughout this series, we may introduce Auth0, as I've said in one of the first videos. And with Auth0, we will have two application modules. One for the unprotected splash screen, for example, and a login page, and the second module, a so-called child module, which takes care about all the protected routes. So for now, let's start with forRoot, and forRoot we have, of course, to provide a configuration for all our routes. And defining those routes is pretty simple. We can just say let there be a const with the name routes. Routes is an array, and we have a default route which listens to path empty string and renders our component dashboard component. Yep, that's of course an object. Okay, we have to add the dashboard component to the declarations, and the routes directory or the routes array that you create over here always the first matching route wins. So that means if you, for example, have two empty string routes, first one will be rendered, second one will be ignored, and there are also fallback routes for example redirection, like redirect everything, redirect to this one. So that means all incoming requests for an URL not listed in the configuration or in the paths above that one will be redirected to the route with the path empty string. Okay, so still rendering foo because we didn't tell Angular where it should place our dashboard component, and this will be in our root, of course, and we replace our foo div by a simple router outlet. So router outlet is always rendering the defined component at a given place. And right now it reloads and we will see our dashboard, and if I hit some or enter some invalid URL, it will automatically redirect the user to the dashboard. Okay, let's add two more components for now. We will have a search, and we have let's create a folder node, and for node we have a subfolder again called card. But let's focus on search. No, that was minimize. Let's create a new TypeScript file and let's call it search. Define a component. Normally I use live templates, but for the first Angular tutorial that we're doing right here, I didn't want to generate that much code automatically, so I'm writing it manually, just to give you a heads up why I'm typing everything manually. But it's definitely worth to configure WebStorm in a way to provide live templates for component services and so on and so on. So we have a selector, and we call the selector search box, and we have a template URL which is search.html. Okay, and our search box is exposing an API. So we want to build, I don't know yet, let's double check how the forms look like. I think they have those nice floating forms, input fields, pre-filled, icon, custom. Yeah, that looks nice. This one is cool. Okay, so we want something like this in combination with a search button. Text areas, icon prefixes. File input. Okay, so let's take a regular input. And let's say we want to create a new HTML file, search.html. we have a row to ensure responsiveness, and on a small screen we want to render it in full width. On a medium screen we want to take, for example, M8, which means from the grid. If you don't know responsive grid, double check their documentation. On a small screen we take the all the 12 columns, and on a medium screen, so there are somewhere over here should be the prefixes listed, M, L, and S, and on M we want to take a width of 8 and provide an offset. So let's say we have M8 and we need to add an offset of M2 to have 2 column space on the left, 8 column wide input, and then again 2 spaces on the right, which gives 12 in total. We have an input over the entire width, or over, let's say, over 11 out of 12, and we have a placeholder. We don't have a placeholder, or we have a placeholder. Search here, query, type text, don't need validation for now. The query is search for, and of course we want a two-way data binding. Okay. So let's use our search box. And let's add it to the module. We have a search component. Okay, that's cool, but I don't want to. I want this one. So just okay, so I just have to remove the placeholder. Let's remove the placeholder and double check again. And let's add another div with a width of 1, and let's add a button with the I class material icons. And I think let's try search. Perhaps we have to rename it. I don't know all those class names without looking into the library. So let's go to the library. Let's double check, or let's verify if there's a search. Yeah, that looks good. Ooh, that looks ugly. Right, that's ugly. So let's remove the button, the surrounding button, and let's add it, make it clickable, and say click to search. And let's ensure that we have a cursor pointer by defining clickable as a cursor pointer. Okay, I don't like the virtual alignment, but I think Materialize has some helpers for that one. CSS helper, v-align wrapper, v-align. Okay, let's go to our search. Let's add a v-align wrapper And let's say you have the v-align class. Okay, double check. Still looks ugly. I'm not happy with that one. So let's kick that one for now. Let's make it 12 wide. Okay, let's add a key down handler. Key down. We want to say execute on return on enter, or execute search. Let's call it execute search on event dot key code. Let's go to our code behind and let's say public execute search. There is a key code which is an integer, a number. And right now we can either talk to a service, or we can, for example, define a contract how our component may communicate to other components by using an output binding. So let's say output public on search requested is of type event emitter of string, because we want to send out the query text, and ensure that you use event emitter offered by Angular core. New event emitter of string, and let's say if key code equal 13, so if the user press enter or return, we want to say this dot on search requested emit. So we have to emit something, and something is our query text. So we have a binding right here which says ng model is query text. We use it over there, but it's not yet defined, and we say, hey, there's a query text of type string. Okay, so how to consume our search box? Well, that's pretty easy. So we have the markup representation right here in WebStorm, for example, provides you IntelliSense, says, hey, there is an event emitter defined on that class, and you can respond to it and say on search, and we want to forward the value that is emitted to our local on search method. On search, and let's add an on search method public on search, which takes a query text of type string, and for now we just want to console a log query text. Okay, save once again, and we should be fine. So let's fire up the consoler. Yeah, and let's get rid of all the old log messages. What's happening over there? Control must be standalone, model options. Okay, yeah. So we're using template driven forms for now, so we have to add a name. And let's name it by query text. Let's wait for the webpack to recompile. The app starts, and here we are without having any issues. So let's look for foo, hit return, and you can see down below the console foo gets logged. And if we look for my important nodes, we get the search term over here. Great. So I think that's a good point to go for a break. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, we'll see in the next video where we cover even deeper Angular 2 stuff.